Jody, hey. I'm just getting, excuse me, I'm just getting ready to go for a walk here. Uh, I actually wasn't going to live stream today, but then uh, I wasn't gonna do it, and then I started hearing, like, in the back of my head, I could hear all the people out there going, "WassamattaU, WassamattaU." All right, life is hard. Oh, hey, I know you. You get a wrench, and that's so that you can. You already know, so that you can go around and hook up with everybody else that you see here or in the chat here. It's not so that you can act like a tyrant. Well, I don't know what that was about earlier. Life is hard with the K2 person. That was kind of weird. That person was kind of weird. I don't know what they were doing. Stalking you or something? I have no idea. I'm not trying to bring up a sensitive subject, but that was bizarre. What was that K2 person earlier? Life is hard. Was that a stalker of yours or what? They said they were outside of your home? That was bizarre. Anyways, yeah. I didn't know that there was such thing as YouTube stalkers. Hey, Jeff Hates Pigs. Actually, I did know there's such thing as YouTube stalkers because I got Jeff Hates Pigs right here. His wife doesn't know that he's been secretly stalking me. um, yes, Jeff Hates Pigs is here. So I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to just dip my toes into the case law, subject here today. I won't be doing the full-on talk about it today, just most likely, but I will be just dipping people's toes into it, getting them warmed up, because this is a subject that literally almost no one understands correctly. Hey, Ryan Labs, what's up, buddy? Brandon F. and Mitchell, yay. Yeah, this case law thing, and a lot of auditors and activists, unfortunately, don't understand the truth about case law, and it's my mission. It's going to be my upcoming mission to make them understand, because it's not just a problem. It's not just a little bit of all of the police tyranny, all of the courtroom tyranny in our country comes from case law. That's where all that qualified immunity, all the degradation of our rights, RAS. You're welcome. Life is hard. Make sure and hook up with everybody. Oh, forget about it. Okay, I will. Yeah. Well, I don't believe that term limits is necessarily the answer. You're right. They should have term limits. You're 100% right. However, SCOTUS, you have to realize they are handpicked and groomed from little kids by special interest people to be corporatists, statists, psychopaths, especially like the really hard right ones. Look at Alito's past rulings. Go do a deep dive on his past rulings as a judge before he became a justice. And also, look at what John Roberts. I think he was a lawyer before that and not a judge. I can't remember now. I'm getting mixed up, but they're psychopaths. And I mean, the people on the left on the court are just as bad because they go along with a whole bunch of the nonsense. Hey, Lady Sky. Hey, good to see you. Dub Woods. Good to see you. But yeah, you got to realize, even with term limits, you're still going to end up with the same type of bad people on there, just like we end up. No, I know you didn't say that would fix it, but like I said, you're right, they should. But you're still going to end up just like with the presidents. You get the same damn thing, basically, whichever president you choose. And so it would be the same thing with justices. So it wouldn't really solve anything. But you are right, though. They should have term limits. Because as it is now, they're basically unaccountable to anybody, unanswerable to anybody. But this is exactly why you can know in your heart and head, just using basic, simple logic, that this isn't the way that this system is intended to run. Yeah, you're right. That's the other thing. Jeff Hates Pigs said it there, is that we need our system to start holding accountable all of its servants, from the judges to the president, if they commit crimes, if they violate people's rights under colors of law, yeah, age limits would be good too. Definitely. Peckers, these old peckerheads, they don't give a damn about anybody. They're on their way out. Um, Ape retirement days. Okay, I'm pretty sure I recognize you. If you're fooling, oh yeah, I do. Okay, so you get mods just so that you can hook up with everybody here. Make sure to do so. I'm just touching off the talk about case law today, um, and why it's blatantly unconstitutional, gibberish nonsense, and it's not what was intended. Now, you can actually understand that case law is not what was intended for this country simply by looking at the fact that, oh, hey, friends in code, hey, good to see you. I don't know why it doesn't show you as a moderator. You are. Um, but just by the fact that we didn't have case law in this country until after the Civil War. And where did it come from? It came from white people being incredibly frightened of the newly freed slaves and wanting some way to oppress them and deny their rights. And they couldn't just legislate. They just freed the slaves. They couldn't turn around and just legislate tyranny back into the law. But so how do they do it? Oh, well, we'll start letting the judges legislate from the bench, which was always prohibited up until then. Case law, common law, jurisprudence, it was prohibited in this country. We don't need it. We don't want it. A lot of people love that stuff and they think it's great, but they don't understand it. Common law, for example, what common law is that most people don't understand is, common law is the authorization of judges in the UK to look out for the interests of the monarchy or the king. That's what common law is, traditionally and today. And it's not a good thing. We have enumerated rights in this country. Alien Clausen, what the F? That's my house. Yeah, buddy, I'm outside your house. I should be a narrator. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it didn't appear in this country until after the Civil War. They wanted it. They wanted to allow it all of a sudden. They were just like Terry versus Ohio. You know, after desegregation, they wanted a way to further oppress people of color and deny their rights, and used Terry versus Ohio because they couldn't legislate. They couldn't just blatantly legislate the tyranny. But the fact of the matter is, in this country, laws are supposed to be legislated. Judges are not monarchs, and they are not gods. However, our current system treats them as such. It places them not only above the law and able to make new laws just from their own minds in their private chambers, but it also makes them above God because they can anybody out there who can't wrap their minds around the fact that judges are not intended, no man is intended to be able to undermine and destroy our inalienable, inherent, God-given human rights, that places that person above God. So if the judges can come along and do this BS with Terry versus Ohio, and that, Terry versus Ohio is not the worst of it, despite what Chile says. I think he's actually changing his mind a little bit, but it is one of the worst, and it's in combination kind of similarly bad to the other one, which I think is actually worse, which is plain view doctrine. Plain view doctrine is absolute horse pucky. It seems like, hey guys, new people here, welcome in. If I don't recognize you, I won't mod you right away, but as long as you behave for a few minutes, I will. That way you'll be able to hook up with everybody here. In the meantime, people, if somebody's not modded, go ahead and you can still go to their channel and leave them a comment on one of their shorts or something and say, hey, I was here, I'm at the live with you. That way they'll be able to follow back to your channel. Got a piece of my sandwich. Oh, wow. I had a big piece of greens in my teeth from my sandwich. So that places them above God. If they can come in and do this RAS thing. But oh no, I was talking about what's worse. Plain view doctrine is worse because that that completely is. So what you need supposedly in order to see somebody in this country, despite unconstitutional traffic law and unconstitutional Terry versus Ohio and all this other nonsense, is supposed to be, we're supposed to have a God-given, inherent, inalienable human right not to even so much as be scrutinized by the government, by government agents, let alone seized by them, whether that's on the side of the road or on the sidewalk or whatever, unless they have what? A warrant signed by a magistrate, and that is based upon and backed by a victim's sworn complaint, and that very specifically describes the places to be searched and the things to be seized, etc., etc. Now, when they're executing a warrant like that, they have to basically ignore anything that they see that wasn't described in the warrant, and they can't use it for later prosecution. They can sometimes get another warrant. There's certain, the intricacies of it are they're nonsense is what they are, because they've gone around the Fourth Amendment requirements. But basically, you're better off as a police officer to show up somewhere without a warrant on a call, or because you were snooping around patrolling, which is a Fourth Amendment violation, by the way. The founders did not want us to have hall monitors snooping around, monitoring traffic, monitoring the people, seeing what we're doing, looking for crimes. That is the last thing they wanted for this country. We're not supposed to have them. That's why we have the Fourth Amendment, is so that they're not supposed to look at us, let alone seize us, unless they have this victim's sworn complaint, and it's very specific. But yeah, then all of a sudden, if they don't have a warrant, if they're just out snooping or they get a call, then all of a sudden anything they see is fair game. That's warped. That completely destroys the warrant requirement. Now, I understand, for we the people, plain view doctrine is just fine. It's great. Whatever we can see from public, we can film, we can record in our minds, we can write on paper or whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's great for we the people. But no, not for government agents. Government agents don't have rights, they have duties. Okay? So plain view doctrine is actually, in some ways, worse than Terry versus Ohio, or at least equal to it. In concert, they work together to really be a menace to our freedom, as most of the people in here already understand. So, the bottom line about the police is they are not only not qualified, but they're also not authorized to determine probable cause. Not ever. Ever. I don't care if they see two people pew-pewing at each other. You don't want, that's right, you have the right to face your accuser in court, and you can't face your accuser when they're when the complainant is the state, or your accuser can't be a government agent. They're not supposed to be able to be a police officer or the state, not unless you commit a person-to-person crime against their rights, then obviously they could be, but not as a state functionary looking to fine and imprison you for something that involves no victim among your fellow citizens. That's not the way it's supposed to go. And or even acts of vandalism against our government or public works or whatever. None of that. So anyways, they're not qualified ever to determine probable cause, even if they see two people pew-pewing at each other. But you don't want them. You might possibly want a system where they would work to put an end to such a conflict, but not necessarily, because that's going to be dangerous for them to ask them to do, and blah, blah, blah. And what you don't want is for them to just do what they do now, just unalive everybody and ask questions later. Because what they end up doing is showing up to crime scenes and brutalizing, arresting, or unaliving the victims way too often. When they see two people pew-pewing at each other, they don't know if one of them is a homeowner or a business owner who's defending their property against the other one. They have no idea what's going on. So that's why they also have no legal education whatsoever. Just basically what the harass and collect stuff that they learn in the academy and in their training days. They don't otherwise have any kind of a legal education. So they're not only not qualified, but they're also not constitutionally authorized to ever determine probable cause. I'm constitutionally authorized to determine probable cause. You're constitutionally authorized to determine probable cause. A police officer, a government agent, is not. We can defend ourselves and others if there is a crime happening of theft or brutality or whatever. But they're not supposed to. So it's all backwards. They've got this, monopoly on violence now. They're not supposed to be determining probable cause at all. It takes only a magistrate can determine probable cause, and only then based on and backed by a victim's sworn complaint. So where does that leave room for police to determine probable cause? It doesn't, and that's a big part of the problem in our country. And this is all relatively new historically stuff too. Just like Chile says, before Terry versus Ohio, you didn't have, well, you had the cops walking up and brutalizing and terrorizing people, but they were it was almost always a racist thing. They didn't get away with that with just everybody, because they didn't have the supposed court rulings, which that brings us back to the case law. Just because judges make a bad ruling in a case, that's not supposed to change the law every time that a judge or a group of justices makes a holding or a judge makes a ruling. That's ridiculous. And what that's done is it's taken the clear, simple law in this country, which is the Constitution, the Bill of Rights within it, and the Declaration of Independence by virtue of reference as described in Article 6 of the Constitution. It's taken that clear and simple law and turned it into a muddy morass, incomprehensible muddy morass that nobody can really even understand or claim to know what the F and F the law even is, as far as how a court might rule on any subject. And only these special class of people, these lawyers, are gatekeepers, basically almost like esoteric knowledge holders to the law. And only the people who can afford them can have justice. And the rest of us face such a known scam. Hey there, Brent Shimko, you're guilty, buddy. Guilty. The rest of us face such a known scam, well-known scam, that 97 to 98% of us take a plea bargain, because we know that our rights are not going to be honored and common sense is not going to rule in the courtroom. We could have, the prosecution could have the worst freaking case in the world, and if we don't have a lawyer to represent us, no matter how blatantly bad that case is, they'll win. It's not supposed to be that way. It's not supposed to be that way in our courtrooms. It's supposed to be that if you are a common man, quote, common man, you can read and understand the law, which is, again, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, and you can understand that law, and you, if falsely accused, can walk into a courtroom and defend yourself and count on your rights being honored and common sense prevailing. That's how it's supposed to be, without a lawyer. Our founders didn't want lawyers in our system at all. They hated, even though some of them were attorneys, they didn't want, yeah, that's true, Mercenary. It is the most amazing document ever, but we don't follow it, unfortunately, not even close. But yeah, oh, here, Mercenary, you get a wrench here. Okay. Anybody else I'm missing here? So yeah, the life and crimes of WassamattaU. Okay, well that's gonna take a series there, Brent. That's definitely gonna take a series. Are you gonna consult my mother? Cause she'll tell you some shit. I'm a bad man. I'm a very bad man. All right. I'm walking to the store here while I got you guys. I'm going to talk about this. Oops. Dragging my phone on the ground. Okay. My secondary phone. Ooh, that was a good hit. Ooh. So, we're going to the store, everybody. Just relax. We're going to the store. Chill for a second. I'm going to try to get the other phone going. A little bit of background music. I don't know. Ryan Lapp, oh, you're a dangerous man, too. You're a bad man, too. Just like me. a career criminal, a criminal, because you want to repair your own stuff. And corporate law has done what it can to keep that from happening and made you an outlaw. Just like I'm an outlaw. Look, I've made millions of dollars dealing rugs, importing rugs, creating rugs, manufacturing them, growing them, whatever. All kinds of different rugs. But I don't belong anywhere near a cage. I'm pretty darn sure of it. I've done people fairly. I haven't ripped people off. You won't find somebody out there who says that CD ever got them for a single dollar. And I certainly, you know, especially after I had my surgeries in my arm, my deltoid on my right arm largely removed, started getting bullied a little bit. It's one of the reasons why I had to quit the game. And yeah, so I mean, I've been ripped off and stuff, but I never turn, you know, other than people who ripped me off where I was going to get my whatever back or whatever. I never ripped anybody off. I never hurt nobody. I don't belong anywhere near a cage. And the war on rugs is treason. It's treason, blatant treason to conduct war on any segment of the American population. And not only that, it's violation of rights under color of law, because under the First Amendment we have freedom of religion, and that includes the ancient human right to create, grow, whatever, what have you, whatever substance, chemical, plant, food, whatever that you darn well so choose, whether that's for medicinal purposes or spiritual or intellectual enhancement purposes or just recreational purposes. It doesn't matter. It's such an ancient human right that a lot of animals enjoy and engage in it in the wild. In Africa, there's trees fruit trees that drop their fruit, and the fruit ferments, and the animals all call a truce. Predator and prey are there together, rolling around drunk in the fermented fruit. And lions and gazelles are slapping each other on the shoulder and telling jokes. And of course, whether it be like a parrot going to eat mud from a bank somewhere, or a cat seeking out a cat litter type plant, it doesn't matter. There's an endless. It's not even just mammals. It's all kinds of animals. And it's an ancient human right that we can choose whatever works for us when it comes to those things. Nobody can tell you you can't possess those things, create those things, grow them, harvest them, gather them, manufacture them, engage in commerce in them. That it's such an ancient human right that surely the founders never even considered that the American people would come under attack based on such a thing, and even thought that they needed to enumerate that right. And I'm sure they also thought they did. Between the 9th Amendment and the First Amendment, I'm sure if you could ask them, they would say that, because most of them grew and harvested and traded in such substances. I saw a funny movie not too long ago on YouTube. It was about these two white guys that lived near the time of the Civil War, and they get confused. There's a slave that introduces them to ganja, and they love it so much, and they get confused and they think that it's illegal, and they go on this quest to legalize it, and they end up sparking off the Civil War and freeing the slaves just by accident, basically. In the process of all this, they finally get to Washington and meet Lincoln at the end, and they're laying out their case to him about this plant and why it should be legal. And he says to him, "It is legal, you numbskulls." And they're like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's legal. Always has been, always will be. This is America. Blah, 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 blah. It always will be legal." Because at first they don't even believe him. And he gets more and more uppity. He's like, "Yes, it's legal, you idiots. Of course it's legal." So you get the point.
the founders surely would have never, I know that's just a movie, but it's an interesting point, because surely they would have never had dreamed that the American people would come under attack based on such a thing, because they didn't yet understand, they as well as they understood tyrants and the desire to wield power, they weren't quite there themselves. I don't think they quite understood the depraved levels that people would be willing to stoop to, and they definitely didn't yet understand what the market monster can do. And that means the market, along with a so-called democracy or republic, where special interests begin to buy special interests, basically. And you have something like the war on drugs, which, as we all know, and I don't need to explain, largely started out as a way for big businesses of all kinds, all petrochemical products, all timber products, all cotton products, food, because hemp is such a great food crop and so healthy and so easy. Farmers could open up a gate and just toss a big handful of hemp seeds back there, shut the gate, come back and harvest the hemp plant at the end of the season, and not even have to water it or bug it, do anything to protect it from bugs or anything. And then the fibers that are in those hemp plants, they run from the base of the stalk all the way to the top of the plant. Whereas the fibers in like 150-year-old old growth tree are only like 1.5 feet long. So they didn't quite, I don't think they quite had a understanding yet of, or I don't know, maybe they did, and the protections that they put in just got degraded over time. I don't know. But for whatever reason, they didn't foresee this, but I guarantee this is not, the reason I'm harping on it is because we've all been normalized to where even those of us who are, we've all been indoctrinated to where even those of us who understand the basic principle of what I'm talking about, we still have a little bit of all these kind of built-in negative reactions about the subject and negative thoughts. They're just not, they don't belong, they're just, you got to shake those off, because they're just, all they are is propaganda that you've been indoctrinated with. That's why I'm harping on that subject. But anyways, case law, going back to case law, I've completely diverted off. I guess it's all interrelated. But the main point is, we didn't have case law in this country. So when Michael Eline or somebody tells you something like, oh, we've always done, our system has always done this way, and we adopted it from the British system. No, we did not. That's easily verified. Just 99, or no, I'm sorry, Lucky Strikes, please. Oh, you don't have the hundreds? Oh, I lost you for a minute. Darn it. Okay. So I was saying, I don't even know where I got cut off there. That's the bummer. I don't know why that happens. I got a 5G phone here. Oh, what I was saying is that it was the number one fear of our founders, like both Jefferson and Madison, just for example. Marlboros, I smoke Camels, Brent. I used to work for Camel. I already talked about that the other day. As a Camel girl, a pretty thing at the bar giving away packs of cigarettes. Oh, that was my end. Yeah, that was my end. Sorry. I don't know why that happened. I'm up on a ridge in the wealthiest neighborhood in Portland with my 5G $1,500 phone. I don't know why that happens. It's like a dead spot up here. Hey, Bernie Arski, good to see you. So their greatest fear was not an out-of-control executive. It was not foreign invaders. It was not the King of England. It was legislation from the bench. That's right. You guys are sharp. That's why. So adjudication is when the judge decides between cases. When a judge's decision is binding on the people, or binding on future judges, or somehow appears to somehow alter the law, the written law, in some obscure way that only judges and lawyers can hash out in the courtroom. And so the people can't even know the law. That's not adjudication. That's legislation. If it's going to apply, so judges can make a bad decision in a single case, like Terry versus Ohio, for example. Technically, the only thing that should happen if Terry versus Ohio is overturned is that John Terry gets some justice. Because it shouldn't be the case that Terry versus Ohio has affected the law the way that it apparently has been believed the law by too many people. And yes, Jefferson and Madison, that they said it was our number one patriotic duty. Jefferson said it was all the public servants' number one patriotic duty, and Madison added that it was also the people's number one patriotic duty to oppose any form of legislation from the bench or policy creation from the bench. That was their biggest fear of all possible fears in the whole world. And they were right. And they predicted that if we failed in that patriotic duty, that what would follow would be an inevitable degradation of our rights, of the Bill of Rights, and a loss of justice in this country, and a also turning away from the most fundamental positive moral values of our country, like the justice being blind, equality under the law, our basic freedoms, liberty to pursue life, liberty, and happiness, like Mercenary had said. Mercenary had said. Exactly. And all of that's exactly what's happened with case law. It's all case law. Whether you're talking about qualified immunity, which is in direct violation of the supreme law of the land, which says that all men are created equal. In fact, the inclusion of that section of the Declaration of Independence was specifically designed to forever deny any claims by whether they be monarchs or judges or bailiffs or sheriffs. They didn't have cops at the time, but it's the same basic thing. By anyone, government or otherwise, of ever claiming special rights to commit crimes against people with impunity. That's never supposed to happen. So police, judges, prosecutors, they're actually the very last people who are supposed to have immunity, let alone no immunity. But yeah, no one is supposed to have a special license to impunity against others. So whether you're talking about that, the immunities, or whether you're talking about the Terry versus Ohio, euphemism, gibberish, nonsense, reasonable, articulable suspicion. Shouldn't it be reasonable, articulatable suspicion, by the way? I never really got that one. I think that's deliberate, hidden in plain sight commentary on the idiocracy of Raz in the first place. This articulable, it should be articulatable. But anyways, so whether you're talking about the immunity, or you're talking about the Terry versus Ohio gibberish, or Plainview Doctrine, or you can go on and on down the line, any of the bad holdings that have somehow turned into policy or presumed law in this country above the Constitution, above the Bill of Rights, like Atwater versus Lago Vista, Pennsylvania versus, these are all violations of the Fourth Amendment. So is pulling people over without a warrant in the first place. And just on a quick side note, in many, many countries around the world, like Mexico, civilized countries like Mexico, the Philippines, they don't do traffic stops. Now, you might be subject to a government, what you are here as well, with checkpoint, which the same thing happens here with DUI and driver's license checkpoints, but they're not that common, and usually it's because they're looking for something specific. What they don't do is have their cops going around, economically terrorizing people, and you were over the line right there. You know, that wasn't 100 feet, that was 75 feet that you signaled. That shit is insanity, dude. In America, just like Chili says, and that's a really good point he makes, when you pull up to a stop sign, if you've been signaling one direction, you suddenly remember in the opposite direction that you need to go pick up Aunt May's pies, and there's no traffic around that you're going to cause a problem, then you're free to change the direction of your goddamn blinker and go the other direction. Of course you are, but not under our traffic law, because it trumps all of our rights. But yeah, so whether you're talking about it doesn't matter which of these things you're talking about, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Atwater versus Lago Vista, any infraction is all that does is between Atwater versus Lago Vista and this search incident to arrest holding or ruling. Can't remember what the case was with that, and I don't care. But between those two, cops have a good incentive to take you to the dungeon over a turn signal or a seatbelt if they want to search your covered car. Because once you're under arrest, they can search your car, incident to arrest, inventory it, which is abused every time. And almost never when people get to court do the judges say, I'm throwing this evidence out because they were supposed to be inventorying and not searching. The cops can lie and say it was right out in plain view. You see where this plain view horse crap comes from, is why it's so dangerous. And all of these things together just incentivize our police to fill up the prison industrial complex. Of course they do. It's a hugely profitable industry. And so that goes without saying, common sense, but it doesn't matter what of this tyranny that you're looking at between the police and then also our courtrooms being for sale, where the wealthy are above the law, because they can afford to hire this special class of gatekeepers to the law, lawyers, which our founders never wanted to be gatekeepers of our law. They wanted the people to be the gatekeepers of the law. But yeah, whether you're talking about that or just all of that comes 100% from case law. And now, mind you, judges at all levels swear an oath to uphold the clear wording of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and Declaration of Independence. They don't swear an oath to uphold jurisprudence. They don't swear an oath to uphold the blatantly unconstitutional holdings or rulings of past or higher court judges. And that's for a good reason. And as I was saying, both, Jefferson and Madison said that's our number one patriotic duty. Well, it's still our number one patriotic duty just because we've gone down this wrong road so far, down this wrong road, which is there's no law requiring to ID. The Fifth Amendment protects us. They say they smelled weed for probable cause. I didn't think there's any country that you could get away with refusing to provide ID like the YouTube vids. Oh yeah, you don't need to provide ID. That's a complete violation of the Fourth Amendment. Yeah, ignoring the law is destroying the Constitution in small and large ways. If you mean ignoring the Constitution is destroying the country, I think is what you mean, basically. Ignore the government ignoring the Constitution and the law. The people don't get to ignore the law. We have so many laws. We have more laws than any other country on the books. Just this endless list of things. Like they say, you commit 5 felonies every time you leave the house, and the average person. And so, we don't get to not follow the supposed law, but the government does, and yeah, that is destroying our country. And again, so if we were just imagine how great things could be if we went back to judges following the plain wording of the Constitution and honoring our rights, and all of this courtroom procedure and nonsense and case law, this and that, and all this complicated, unnecessary stuff that's just taken our beautiful Bill of Rights and Constitution and made them into meaningless garbage. If all that was gone and your rights were honored when you got in court, and if you were falsely accused of something, you wouldn't need to spend your whole life savings to go or if you were wealthy, you didn't need to take a big dent out of your finances to pay some lawyer. And also, this system is what's made it so that companies that are large can dominating the free market by simply burying their competition in legal work, which is another horse crap. But it's all bad. All of this legislation from the bench is bad. There's nothing good about it, no matter what anyone tells you. Yes, there are some holdings and rulings which we like and we cling to and we cite often, to try to protect us. However, even most of those are tainted in some way, shape, or form, and they're not good. And so, just like Jefferson and Madison saying it was our number one patriotic duty to avoid this and stomp out even the tiniest examples of the courts trying to legislate policy or law from the bench, create law from the bench just from their own minds. That we were to stomp out even the tiniest example of it, never allow even the littlest example of it, because that would be the terrible precedent that would lead to the end of our country. And they were right. They got it right. And here's the other thing. As long as you can try to overturn Terry versus Ohio all you want, beg the government to please overturn your own tyranny, you can do this and that, and you might have some successes, but in the overall larger war, we are only going to continue to lose our rights. They're only going to continue to be diminished with more court holdings and more court rulings, rather than just following the simple wording of our rights and honoring them. We'll continue to lose them as long as the courts continue to wield this unconstitutional, prohibited power that they have usurped and that has completely thrown our system of checks and balances out of whack. We will not get better. So overturn Terry versus Ohio, that's a big mistake. I'm sorry. It is. It's destined for a fall, as I said in my song. It's not going to work. You could now his idea to legislate Terry versus Ohio way, that might work. I like that idea a lot better. I think but it'll only work in the areas where you can accomplish that, and that's a big accomplishment. So it's kind of I guess what I'm saying is it bothers me a little bit to know that Chile understands everything that I'm saying to you right now, but he continues to talk about case law in a way that legitimizes it, and that also auditors in general, and I'm not here to talk crap about Chile. I love him. He's my bud. I support him. I've given him a lot of money, and I don't have a lot of money, but of a lot of what I've had, et cetera, et cetera. And so, other auditors who are ignorant of this truth, it's still our number one patriotic duty. It's more important now than it was before we made this mistake of going down this road. It's just that nobody knows it, or very few people know it. But unfortunately, there's a ton of lawyers who know it and judges who understand it, but they have spent their whole lives and invested their whole careers in learning this case law nonsense gibberish and this fake false system, this criminal system that we've allowed to be built, that's a scam, and that such a bad scam that 98% of people take plea deals. They are invested in that, and they don't want it to go away, so they don't speak up about it, even though many of them know the truth. And unfortunately, it's the same. And I'm trying to hold faith in a few auditors that I know. I'm trying to hold faith that they'll do the right thing, but and unfortunately, there's a lot of auditors out there who have learned case law, and they enjoy showing off their knowledge of it and trying to use it to their advantage, again, in encounters with police and in court and whatnot. And they don't want to, so they don't, they have a vested interest in, also, they believe, at least seem to believe, they have a vested, either that or they can't see the truth because of their love of case law. And I can't understand how anybody could know anything about case law and love it. I mean, why wouldn't you love the Bill of Rights as it's written instead? And I'm not picking on Chile, but just in general, somebody who's a constitutional law scholar, are you a constitutional law scholar or a case law scholar? Because they're not the same thing. And all I would ask is that you would do your number one patriotic duty, as Jefferson and Madison put it. It's not my idea. And that you would talk about this as regularly as possible. You can still, teach about case law. We can all learn about case law. You want to know the enemy's tools as well as you can. However, I do think that trying to utilize them is a mistake in a lot of ways in many instances, because as we see, when you talk that gibberish to the police, in many cases, that seems to just get them circling the wagons and more angry until they attack. I've noticed this time and time again in auditor videos. They know that the system is a scam. It's their scam, and you're not allowed to use and enjoy it against them and use it against them. They don't like that at all. Everyone, entertain yourselves for just a quick 2 seconds. I'm going to be right back. Okay, I'm back. Nobody panic. I'm back. So what I was saying is, I would like to see, people who understand this make sure to educate the audience about it. It's still our number one patriotic duty. Oh, I was saying it's a mistake to use it. So it's a mistake to use it. In most of these cases, it gets the police and the judges. It appears. Look at Hendry. I had a personal conversation with Craig Hendry before he went to his final court. Hey, there's DLZ. I just mentioned you a few minutes ago, buddy. I had a personal conversation with him before he went into court. When he was jailed this last time before he got out, when he was in there for a while, about the case law thing. And I had tried to convince him, hey, don't do this. Don't go in there and talk that to them, because they don't respect it. It's their scam. They know that the system is a scam, and it's their scam, and they don't appreciate us trying to use it. And sure enough, look what happened to him. He had all his case law in line when he went into court. He made perfect, excellent arguments. There should have been no way that he ended up convicted and in jail. My point being, I believe that he may have still also failed by standing on his rights in court, but I believe that he would have had a better chance of standing on his rights. Stand on your First and Fourth Amendment rights. And Chile, by the way, you got out on a First Amendment claim. You had your case overturned on a First Amendment claim, not on a case law claim. As far as I could discern by watching that, I think. Actually, I don't want to. Let me take that back. I believe that's the case. That just kind of popped in my head. Maybe I'm not thinking this through straight. But I believe that's the case. But my main point is, whether you're dealing with the police almost appear to take it as like a citizenship test almost, where they start talking to somebody, and I've seen, this is just my anecdotal evidence from watching different videos, but I've seen many of these cases where somebody who stands on their rights appears to get more respect from the police than somebody who starts spouting this case law gibberish nonsense at them. This unconstitutional, prohibited legislation from the bench that was our founders' worst fear, and that never appeared in our system until after the Civil War. And anything that comes from a racist background like that, which I already explained earlier, the first case law comes from white people who are terrified of slaves, and they can't turn around after freeing the slaves and just legislate tyranny back into the law. But they started to allow judges for the first time to legislate from the bench, because this was their solution for how they were going to give an excuse for police and the law, basically, to terrorize and imprison people of color and deny their rights. So it started there, and it goes all the way through, as I'm not going to re-explain what Chile has already taught about Terry versus Ohio and Pennsylvania versus Mims and these other holdings and rulings, but you can see what kind of ugly motivations they came from. And this is kind of what we get as for white people out there, for allowing this in the name of racism. Now it's a monster that's come around and is biting us. And of course it is. So I think it's a mistake to get out there and spout this reasonable under the toilet with kisses on Tuesday at stop signs garbage. That's garbage. It's all garbage. Reasonable articulable suspicion appears nowhere in the bloody Fourth Amendment, which the last time I checked is still worded exactly the same as it always was. et cetera, et cetera. And I understand that we in this country are not following the Constitution and the Bill of the Rights, but that's what we need to be pushing for. It's still our number one patriotic duty to deny the courts the power of case law, just like Jefferson and Madison said. I believe, and I think it's very important that we clarify, auditors, when that you're not out, that auditors are not out here talking about case law as if in a way that legitimizes it, without clarifying that, hey, this, by the way, we are learning about this case law. It's good to have this knowledge. It's good to know the tools of the enemy, et cetera, et cetera. We'll use it when we can to our advantage. Of course we will. Of course, when it's the smartest thing to do, that's what you do. I carry Chili's trifold in my car, okay? And I will use it. However, that said, when I have a large audience of people and I'm talking about these things, I think it's very important that I clarify that, hey, because of the very reason that I've stated, almost nobody in this country understands this. Only lawyers, judges, and a few activists understand this, and they all appear to generally not want to talk about it because they feel like it encroaches on what they've studied their whole life and learn and make their money on. And I can't really, you can't, whatever. I'm not. That's all I'll say about that. But the main point being that people don't know this information, and I think this is the brush fire of liberty that needs to be set in the minds of men, because of course, we're not going to immediately put an end to legislation from the bench case law. Of course not. A lot of us in the auditing community, because we love auditing videos and activism so much, and we watch all this stuff, we have this inflated sense of our being with the mainstream. And the fact of the matter is we're not. We should be, but we're not. Who unto you the lawyers read, that it's a PDF on it, you can look it up. Oh yeah, who unto you the lawyers, yeah, because ye holds the key to whatever. Yeah, I know that. And that's a very apt, very, very apt quote right there. So anyways, I don't know. I even people like the civil rights lawyer, a lot of people see him as a very heroic light. I see him as a villain, because even though he helps some people, and I'm sure they're very grateful and they love him, and I even like to see what he's doing in a lot of these cases, he refuses to come out and tell the bloody truth about the real problem. And as long as we continue to play this game and we don't even get this brush fire started in the minds of men to where everyone out there still doesn't understand what the real problem is, and trust me, the real problem is case law. We don't need it. We have enumerated rights. We don't need case law, common law, jurisprudence. We don't need it. You only need that in places where you don't have enumerated rights, and or where you have a judiciary or judges that are looking out for the king's interest, as in common law. And that's what common law is. So I'm going to end this here before I start getting my panties in a bunch. But I will continue on with this talk about this. And I hope Chili's listening, because I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time, my friend. I don't know. I don't see how this isn't my idea. Go back and look for yourselves. Jefferson, Madison, many of our founders were clear that this is what will eat our country alive and kill it, and that is what is happening. And so it's still our number one patriotic duty, and we need to keep that in mind when we talk. All right, I'm just going to leave this going here for a few more minutes while the sun continues to go down. I'm going to calm down. I'm not really upset or anything. I just, whatever. I get passionate about certain things, and this is one of them. I find it hard to understand a lot of the backlash that I have encountered with this discovery. And it's not exactly my discovery. I'll credit Kennedy Walker, first of all. He didn't exactly point it out to me in black and white, but he was the first one to come along and say, what's this RAS gibberish you're talking? That's nonsense. This is our rights. The Fourth Amendment is clear. And so that got me thinking about it. And then I started thinking about, well, do you think the founders really intended judges to be above God, to be able to change our inherent and inalienable human rights, God-given and human rights? Because if so, they're above God. So anyways, I'm not taking full credit for it. That's how I got started on it. But I've struggled a bit in my mind, and with a lot of the people in the auditing community that I support, with a lot of the backlash that I've got on this subject, because It's not my idea. I mean, this is, whatever. And it's the truth. So I don't, this is the problem. And nothing's ever going to get fixed trying to, like I think Chili's idea to legislate away some of this stuff is good. But I don't think you're going to overturn Terry versus Ohio. And even if you do, what difference is it going to make? Look at what happened with the Bruin. That they choose, they pick. It's a scam. They pick and choose what they pay attention to. And so when case law allows them to act in tyranny, they jump right on it. But when it works for the people, often they just ignore it, both on the street and in the courtroom. So, and at the national level with the states. So, wow, it's kind of a pretty night. It's not. It's cool, but it's not so cold. There's no precipitation whatsoever. It's very peaceful out here. What is that noise? Oh, that was somebody's laugh? Oh, okay. My bad. I'm not trying to make fun of somebody's laugh here. I thought it was a crow, though. I was like, there's no crows out at night. I don't know if anybody else has crows. I'm sure we all have crows around us. Of course we do. But we've got the crows here. One of them would come up and knock on the door when it wants something from my mother. It's pretty funny. They're smart. They're smart critters. I'm letting you guys finish any discussions that you got going on in the chat. Lynn, I've heard that you're having a hard time struggling, man. I hope things get better for you. I didn't know. I hadn't talked to you on the phone in a while. I didn't know that some of the stuff that you had going on. So yeah, I hope things look up a little bit on those issues. Block Zoom public hearings. The courts here block public Zoom hearings. I see. Really? That's in Washington there, right? LO 6, not 6. The Ninth Amendment covers the sex part, right? The Ninth Amendment covers so much, and it's basically ignored entirely. Like, what rights do we have under the Ninth Amendment that are honored because of the Ninth Amendment? That was a mistake, I think, that one. I mean, I don't think it's a mistake to include necessarily, but it's not fun. It's not functionally working out to do much for us. Driving is what did it. Or driving is covered by, traveling is covered by the Ninth Amendment. Yeah, it should be. So is the Declaration of Independence covers that as well. This is, the Supremacy Clause is one of the most misunderstood clauses in the Constitution. It does not say that federal law trumps state law always, and that's how it's most often interpreted. What it says is that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and by reference, the Declaration of Independence are the supreme law of the land, and that any law, code, statute, whatever you want to call it, anything, behavior, code, policy that is in conflict with those documents in any way is null. That's what it says. And the Supremacy Clause is reiterated in the first line of the 10th Amendment, by the way. So no, states do not have the right to pass laws, make codes, policy, or engage in behaviors that violate our rights. No, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence are the supreme law of the land, and everything is secondary to that. And no, federal law does not trump state law. It's not supposed to. It's that those documents trump everything. Gotta run Line Labs. Yeah, I'm shutting it down here in a minute, anyways. I'm just rambling on while I let people say their goodbyes and blah blah blah. I'm trying to turn this into like a fairly regular 420 time, maybe 5 days a week or something, 4 days a week, WassamattaU hangout space. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if people continue to appreciate my ramblings and ravings and rantings or not.
Mr. Bones, I'm about to talk to you right after this. I know Mr. Bones had court today. Well, that's all right, Mr. Bones. I'll call you here as soon as I'm done, as soon as I'm off. Um, Unless you want to really quickly mention anything here. But yeah, that's it. It's just a lovely evening out here, though, isn't it? I mean, it's really not even very cold. Usually when it's clear, basically clear light, it's actually not clear. You can't quite see it really well, but there is a complete white cloud cover over us. It's just not dark clouds, not dark enough to rain. I was surprised day before yesterday to see Jupiter in the sky shining right through all the clouds and everything. It must be close to us right now or something. So she also said that she would no longer be letting me tape anytime I'm around her. My attorney said she's seen that I recorded her conversation and put it on the internet. And she said that she would no longer be letting me tape anytime I'm around her. Also, told the judge today that I was suffering from mental health issues, of course, from the case having nightmares about their taking me to jail. And I mean, that's legitimate. Obviously, all they have to do is look at the facts of what's happened to you, and they should understand that that's legitimate. Also said that to the judge that I had, okay, an inmate getting down on his butt and beating my leg with a baseball bat while a guard held a pill for my medication and said policy. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, it's a nightmare that they're putting you through. This country puts hundreds of thousands or millions of people through these nightmares every year. It's all completely unnecessary. What is this case? I gladly plead guilty. I've suffered enough. So did you? You said you can't plead guilty. You need to go through this mental health and contact aid and assist and show up at my next court date. So they're going to continue. I would have a psychiatrist or somebody write the court and tell them, look, you're causing this person an extreme, unnecessary mental anguish. I don't know if that would work or at all. I don't know. Well, I'm not suicidal, but my doctor, yeah, don't ever tell him you're suicidal. But my doctor did tell me that this hospitalization and the suffering stroke because I can't get my medication to work, that I qualify for the Death with Dignity Act. I then looked at the prosecutor and said it takes 3 signatures on here normally, family members, that we could catch you, all his cousins. Yeah, these people have no consciences. No consciences whatsoever. She said, fine, Mr. I know, Mr. Whiskey's not your name, but I know. Fine, Mr. Whiskey, we'll go see you in 30 days. Just make your court date. Anything on paper will help. Yeah. Yeah, you know, Lynn actually has... Lynn, you should hook up with Mr. Bones and give him some of the information that you gave me about the courtrooms and whatnot. That was some interesting stuff. I think at one point I wanted to forward some of that stuff to you, Mr. Bones, but you didn't. I can't remember if we couldn't work it out or what, but or if I couldn't find it or what, but... Okay, guys, people are trickling out. I'm going to go ahead and end this here shortly. I almost hate to. It's so nice out here. All right. I'm going to shut this down and I'll talk to you on the phone, Mr. Bones. All right. Just call me here and give me 20 minutes and then call me, will you? Good night, everyone. I appreciate everyone who's still here today. I hope you had some fun hanging out and listening to me rant. Peace.